Hey there! Welcome to Life Blueprint. I also call this our self-assessment evaluation. My name is Amy Friesen. I'm the founder and CEO of Tea and Toast, as well as the founder of Eldercare Planners of Canada and a best-selling author. Today I'm going to take you on the journey of building a life blueprint for living your best life while simultaneously helping others live theirs. Today we're going to talk about lifestyle insights, the blueprint design and how to do that, as well as next steps that will help you on your journey. As a brief overview to put everything in context that we're going to discuss today, let's look at what the caregiver struggle is currently. Today, there are over 7 million seniors in Canada, and specifically in the 90 plus population, we've seen a growth of 145% over the last 20 years. Now, for caregivers, there are 2.2 million caregivers who are also employed, which means that they are in the sandwich generation, they're going to work, they most likely have children, and they're caring in some form for their senior loved one. So as this number raises, what you can see is that there are more and more people of our population really being put into this caregiver role, whether by choice or whether by obligation. So a little bit about seniors and their care needs. Currently, loved ones are living longer and having advancing care needs. There's not enough care in the system currently, and there are a lot of silos between private and public care communication, as well as there's not enough education to navigate. And for the working caregivers, there are not enough hours in the day, to say it simply. There's not enough downtime to care for themselves. There's difficulties balancing work with new uncharted caregiving scenarios. A lot of them are having increased sick days. And there's difficulty managing increased and foreign emotions such as stress, fatigue, and guilt. So today we're looking at this self-assessment piece. There are ideally 6 steps in the eldercare journey for housing and care, and today we'll focus on the self-assessment, how to take inventory of your emotions and your personal situation. Now, just briefly, step 1 and 2 are interchangeable. Either you could start with the self-assessment or you can start with the groundwork, which you'll find in another one of our webinars. And so today, again, we're going to look at the self-assessment piece. So for life blueprint design, it's a marriage between time management, stress management, and self-care management. And we're going to look at all 3 of these in depth so that you can arrange things in your life while caring for other people, whether they are your parents, your senior loved ones, friends of family, even for children. All of this will give the center of care to yourself, and then you can better care for those folks that you're caring for. So briefly, let's look at time management. So there's 3 aspects in time management that I find a lot of caregivers need some additional help with. 1 is setting time boundaries, 2, scheduling personal time, and 3 is batching. So setting time boundaries is all about what you need and protecting the time required to achieve it. So where do you feel strapped for time? What are your priorities? How do you put yourself first? Are questions that you can start asking yourself. Openly communicating and asserting personal values as a way to preserve and protect against having them compromised or violated is really the goal of this part. Now let's look at a situation to really hone this in for you. Say your parent is calling and requiring you to drive over to their home to help multiple times a day. A boundary would include saying something like, "Mom, I'm happy to come over and help out, but I can only do this twice a day. Can we make a schedule so that you know when we'll be coming over?" This way, the mom in this scenario understands that the daughter can only make so much time to drive over to her house to help her. And they're also setting a schedule so the mom knows when she's coming over and it's not a guessing game. That's one example of a time boundary. So I urge you to take some time to think about what types of time boundaries do you need to set up in your life to make sure that you're prioritizing again what you need and protecting the time it's required? Do you need time to cook dinner every night because you really enjoy that? Do you need time to go to the gym? Do you need time to read? Do you need time to just do nothing? So make a list of that stuff and work through how you can start setting up time boundaries. Scheduling personal time is all about prioritizing yourself and your needs and booking them into your schedule. I know this seems very straightforward. However, so many people that we talk with do not do this. A lot of us are ruled by our agendas and our calendars, and a lot of people don't put themselves in. Sure, the odd medical appointment might make it in, or something that kind of gets to that caliber. But what about scheduling things that are just going to happen every month, every week, whatever it is? Now, I know that self-care is much more than massages, for instance, but me personally, I book a massage in every 6 weeks because I have a chronic neck condition that causes pain. And so if I book that in every 6 weeks, it's already in my calendar, and I always go to that appointment. That helps take care of me so that I can take care of others. So what are some things that you can put in your schedule today to make sure that you are making that time for yourself? And then thirdly, batching. Batching's all about putting like items together so the gummy bears don't rule your life. So things like tasks, errands, and responsibilities. As you can see, a lot of us live in the left side of this slide where it's all the gummy bears, and there's definitely bigger ones than others, and some of those are ruling your life and they shouldn't be. And so how do we get them to all stand in line and work together and put them together on one spot so that you're not all over the place like a ping pong ball? So let's look at a situation for an example. So the situation is you are currently spending time every week making shopping lists for not only your own home, but for your parents as well. Additionally, there are also multiple other stops that need to be made that you try to fit in here and there when you can stretch your schedule to allow for it. So the batching exercise for this would be for 2 weeks to try this. Number 1, schedule a half hour in your calendar to make a grocery list for both homes. Make sure you let your parents know that you need to know what they need by a certain time so that you can arrange to do the shopping. This can also be looked at as a time boundary. Number 2, for the uninterrupted half hour, which you will have to talk maybe with your spouse, with your partner, with your kids to get you that time, you want to write down and organize both shopping lists for the next 4 days, as well as the additional items and stops that you need to make, and combine them to eliminate stops where you can. Now, I chose 4 days because a lot of people feel like shopping for 1 week at a time is just too far apart. So we started with 4 days here. Number 3 would be schedule a 2 to 3 hour block of time in your calendar to do the shopping, and plan to bring your parents' things over to their house the next time you visit, not adding the extra trip to their home. And so this way, either you can plan to deliver it tomorrow when you go, or you can plan the shopping trip before you're supposed to see your parents, and that way you're not having the extra time to travel, to organize. You're combining everything together. The idea is to get down to 1 shop a week, to make a time boundary with your parents, and to better organize your thoughts to reduce stress. Remember, nothing's perfect. It's going to take a minute. It's probably new to most. And so this is a way to start doing those small things and batching things together so you don't feel like you're running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Up next, let's look at stress management. And this is all about creating habits and routines and setting personal space boundaries. Let's look at habits and routines. Both are regular and repeated actions. Habits happen without conscious thought, whereas routines often require more intention and effort to be built. These are really important to structure your day. Many people have AM and PM routines, and the reason they have them is so that they can get a piece of what they need to start the day and to finish the day. And then when you have these routines in line, if you fall off the track, it's easier to get back on. So for instance, my morning routine includes doing some brief exercises, very short, some stretching, some meditation and teeth brushing, etc. And then my PM routine has very similar routines in it, but it's all about making sure that I get my stretches in before bed, make sure that I'm ready for bed, and trying to kind of wash away the day and make sure that I can sleep well. It's really important to have these habits and routines in so that you can then build around what you need. So looking at personal boundaries, these are limits and rules we set for ourselves within our relationship. And so what these are good for is weeding out energy wasters, greater confidence, putting your needs first, less resentment and anger, and anxiety levels overall. So let me talk about a situation that might give you a bit more clarity. So the situation is this. Something that can come up often when you're a caregiver is others want to show you that they care by giving you a hug. It seems pretty simple, right? However, if you're not a hugger, then it's perfectly acceptable to say something like, "Thanks for your kind words. I'm just not a hugger." When you are already outputting so much emotion and energy, you may not even want the physical touch, making it cause more stress than calm. So that's an example of a personal boundary. I myself am not much of a hugger, and if I'm really upset or angry, if someone wants to come and console me, that doesn't make me any less angry or upset, to be honest. And so think about things in your personal space that you would like if people respected. These things, like I said, will weed out other energy wasters and give you greater confidence and things like this. So they will, maybe separate the people that are like, "I don't care if you're not a hugger, I'm going to hug you anyway because I'm a hugger." That means that they're not taking your feelings into consideration, and maybe you need to spend less time with them, for instance. You really need to put your needs first and make sure you're caring for yourself, because if you're not watching out for you, then nobody else will be. And lastly, self-care management. Self-care management is being in tune with your physical and mental needs and the ability to evaluate what you need while putting processes in place to achieve it. So there's 5 areas to look at here. Mental, which means making time for caring for your mind. That might mean doing some yoga or meditation or journaling. Whatever that means for you, it might just mean staring off into the abyss for a couple of minutes so that you don't have to think about anything else. Social is about making time for cultivating relationships. I am very antisocial myself. I'm very introverted, and I have to work at making social connections because I know that they're good for me, because isolation is the other side of not making the social connections. But it's really about cultivating really good ones. So for me, I only have a couple of really close friends, and that's it. I don't have a lot of friends that are on different tiers and I spend X amount of time with each. I really can't afford to do that in my life. It doesn't serve me. So I only have a few. So maybe look at, do you have really good relationships, and are there ones that aren't so good that maybe you need to reevaluate? Physical would be the next one, and that's about taking care of your body. So again, if you go and work out or going to the gym and having time for that, or eating properly, things like that, really making sure that your body is taken care of properly. For spiritual, it's all about your life experience and your purpose. This could be religion for some. This could be the word spirituality for others. And it's really about finding what your life purpose is. And all of us only have one life to give and one life to live. And so what we want to do is really figure out what is good for us and what we want out of our lives and structure other things around it. And then finally, emotional, and that's all about your coping skills. So how do you cope when you're angry? How do you cope when you're overstressed? Some people use alcohol, for instance, for coping skills. That is not, a great coping skill, because if you look back on the physical, it's not really taking care of your body. So what are things that you can put in that will help you cope better with some of the emotions that come up of caregiving, like guilt and sadness and stress. And maybe also look into things like counseling, because sometimes talking it out is what helps break that down for people. And so self-care management is about taking care of your whole self so that you can function properly as a human being, and then looking at bringing in the caregiving, because the age-old saying is if you can't care for yourself, you can't really care for anyone else. Put your own oxygen mask on first. So what can your next steps look like? Well, there's a lot of next steps that you can look into. Specifically, I'd like to give you a challenge. I'd like to give you a challenge to do over the next 7 days, which is boundary setting. And in this challenge, I would like you to look at the boundaries we discussed today and what boundaries in your life need to be put up. So what things are happening in your life that are overtaking you, that are taking up too much of your time, that are not serving you, that don't interest you, and what boundary, maybe 1 or 2 different boundaries, can you put up to start forming your life the way you want, instead of being at everybody's beck and call and doing things that you're not interested in. So I challenge you to do that to help steer your life into that direction and get things moving that really serve you better. Additionally, as I mentioned at the first of this webinar, the groundwork webinar is a great complementary piece. You can find that on the Tea and Toast website. And the groundwork webinar is all about understanding options and terminology. And so if you're walking through the eldercare journey with senior loved ones, knowing what's in front of you is really important. It's a very, high level introductory of everything, but it'll give you a really good grasp and some talking points if it comes up. And then after that, there's also a workshop called The Talk, and it's about how to have the 7 talks of elder care. A lot of people come to us at Tea and Toast. They don't know how to have the talk about senior living. They don't know how to have the finance talk or the mental health talk. It's all in this workshop. And you can access that also on the Tea and Toast website. And at that, I'd just like to thank you for attending this webinar. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you found value, and we'll open everything up to questions.